being planted inside the skulls of our soldiers, and there are people who think that Maoists are Gandhians with guns and should be treated with kid gloves. Joining us on the center stage face-off this evening to discuss the story that we are putting out, we've got General GD Bakshi. We've also got Professor Sujato Bhadro. He's a human rights activist and very often has been on headlines today explaining why the Indian state should not send the CRPF against the Naxals and why the Naxals should be treated with kid gloves. We've got Jugal Purohit, who's brought this video out for the first time. It's actually come from a Naxal who was captured by the forces. That's how they recovered this video. But I want to go across first to Professor Sujato Bhadro. As someone who's been a great votary of a go easy against Naxals policy, Professor Bhadro, anyone watching this broadcast tonight would like to know from you, which Gandhian actually plants a grenade inside the head of our soldiers? These are not Gandhians, Professor Bhadro. These are barbaric terrorists, and I hope you will revise your assessment on the back of the story we've put out tonight.
Number one, as a human rights activist, we never support that any kind of action that result in death of a civilian in future. But if you put something in the dead body and send it to somewhere and which might kill other civilians who are not involved in the conflict, it's not acceptable from the human rights perspective. Whoever done it, if done by the Maoists or any other armed opposition group, we are totally opposing to such action. What we have been emphasizing that there is a fight between the Maoists and the Indian state. There is no doubt about that. There is no doubt that they are maintaining irregular army fighting against Indian state for better society according to their
No, but that's
vision.
exactly the point that we've been making, and you've been denying all this while, that they've got a standing army and they need to be dealt with the same force with which you deal with any other opposition army. In the manner in which you go after terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir, you go after terrorists in the northeast, we need to go after the Maoist terrorists in exactly the same fashion, Professor Sujato Bhadro. There is no difference, and I hope our expose this evening removes that difference in your head at least.
Yes, I'm answering to you. Listen to me. Listen to me. I'm answering to you. There is a difference between terrorist activities and Maoist activity. There is a certain action may appear as a terrorist activities. According to the police report, according to the report submitted to the planning commission, the government official made a distinction between hardcore
No, Professor Bhadro, I will not let you make vague answers on our broadcast this evening. Professor Bhadro, you cannot make vague answers. I have a direct, straight question for you, and I hope you will be honest when you answer it. Do you believe that on the back of the story headlines today has put out, where we've captured in graphic detail a video shot by the Naxals themselves, that this is a terrorist attack, that these are terrorists? I hope you accept that.
1 minute, let me finish. Let me finish. Why are you imposing your question on me without allowing me to complete? I am at a receiving end because you are in a better position to impose your question on me.
Answer the question. Answer the question.
Answer that fits your theory. That fits your theory. No, that's not the proper way.
It's not a theory, it's reality. It's been captured by the Naxals themselves. This is no conspiracy theory. Professor Bhadro, this is reality. The reality has been seen by the entire country this evening.
Maoist issue is an internal social economic resulting in the social economic crisis coming out of that. The government has to recognize that because of the social economic disparity,
completely dismayed, Professor Bhadro. I can't believe what you're saying.
To talk with them.
Professor Bhadro, look at the manner in which these barbarians have come after the CRPF. You know, nobody who's Gandhian in his orientation goes about planting grenades and bombs in the skulls of our soldiers.
Barbaric attack cannot be accepted.
So why are you scared of calling this a terrorist attack? Why are you scared of calling Naxalites terrorists? Why are you scared of calling a spade, Professor Bhadro? Speak the truth.
I don't consider the Naxalite as terrorist, number one. Number two, even terrorism has certain political content in their ideology. So whoever done it, government has to recognize
Osama bin Laden had a great ideology. Osama bin Laden also believed this problem had to do with the way the United States was treating the world. There was no dispute over that. I want to
Pardon
bring
me?
General GD Bakshi in because some people like Professor Sujato Badro, despite the evidence, clinching evidence, shot by the Naxalites themselves. Professor Badro, complete your argument.
Whether you are agreeable to have a talk with the Maoists or not. That's the whole point.
No, this is about whether you are prepared to concede that these are terrorists. They killed 76 of our brave soldiers in cold blood, mutilated their bodies. These, Professor Badro, are terrorists.
For a moment, take it. For a moment, let me admit that they are terrorists. So what? So whether government is going to talk with them or not, they are part of the Indian people. They are part of the Indian people. Whether government is going to talk with them.
In the same manner in which insurgents
the reason for the revolt.
In the same fashion in which insurgents in Jammu and Kashmir and insurgents in the northeast Indian people, Professor Badro. In exactly the same way, we don't have a long argument with somebody holding an AK-56 to our head.
Kingdom had a talk with the terrorists in the island. Philippine government is having a talk with the Maoists. There are a lot of examples where terrorists having a negotiation.
I want to bring General GD Bakshi in because Professor Sujato Badro is broadly saying that you have to distinguish between terrorists and Maoists are not terrorists despite the evidence Headlines Today has put out this evening. General Bakshi.
You know, no amount of evidence is ever going to change the views of our human rights brigade. You know, and I'm very sorry to state a lot of them have the support of foreign funded NGOs, you know, who never raised a whimper when it came to the B-52s bombing in Iraq, when the F-16s were used, the Abrams tanks were used in Iraq and Afghanistan.
You are accusing without any evidence. You are accusing without any evidence.
Professor Badro, we put out clinching evidence. What else is evidence, Professor Badro?
No credible human rights organization accept any donation from anywhere.
Listen to others.
No credible human rights organization accept any.
I didn't interrupt you.
No.
You have no right.
You are absolutely slandering. You are
Slander? They've killed 76 of our soldiers. You are accusing the Naxals of murder. I accuse them of murder. You are accusing the Naxals. You are accusing us of murder. Let General Bakshi complete his argument, please.
Crimes much worse than murder.
Who are war crime? Indian army doing war crime.
Indian army
committing war crime. Indian army paramilitary not even Jammu Kashmir. Everyone doing war crime.
Professor Badro,
everyone Indian army
listen to somebody else
doing violation of human rights.
Professor Badro, you must allow General Bakshi to complete his argument. General Bakshi, please proceed.
You are not taking consideration of state terrorism. You are not taking consideration of state terrorism. You are shouting human rights, Indian constitution. You are talking. You are boosting Indian army.
General
Same of you.
Excuse me. I think I would now like to speak without interruptions from you. I didn't interrupt you when you were speaking. Professor Badro, I would like to state that even in a war, there is some decency which is shown, which is mandated by the Geneva Convention. You do not mutilate bodies like this. Do not put bombs in the heads of dead soldiers. This is the worst form of terrorism that you can ever conceive of. And please see what the UN...
the action is inhuman and condemnable. We have condemned.
Look, you have condemned. That doesn't mean anything. Because you...
Indian army equally done barbaric act on Indian civilians.
I'm sorry, you cannot make such disparaging and sweeping allegations without an iota of proof to support it. The Indian army has done absolutely no such thing, and we will respect our army. We will not allow such insinuations to be made on our channel. I'm sorry, if there is specific allegation, we will deal with it. Professor Badro, you allow General Bakshi to complete his argument.
That is the whole issue about.
No, you are deflecting.
Is the army deployed against the Maoists? I would like to ask you this question before you go about maligning the Indian army as a reflex habit. I would like to state that there are certain rules of decency even in the worst of wars between nations. This kind of an action has never been done, is never accepted. The UN Commission, the United Nations makes very clearly
that's absolutely correct.
No cause in the world justifies terrorism of this sort.
You know, Professor Sudhakar Bhadro, there are a couple of big fallacies that you are peddling. There are a couple of big fallacies. You are trying to link it with what the Indian Army is doing. The fact, sir, is the Indian Army is not deployed against the Maoists anywhere. So you are comparing apples and oranges and just trying to diffuse this debate. Please stick to the facts. If these are terrorists, as you are prepared now to concede, why should we not deal with them in the manner in which we deal with terrorists to bring them down? There is no question of negotiating, talking with terrorists. You bring a terrorist down, you don't talk to him with folded hands, Professor Sudhakar Bhadro.
Only point is that whether you are agreeable to for a discussion with the so-called armed opposition groups or not. Whether Indian state is having dialogue with the Nagaland, with Naga organization, with Bodo outfit, but they are not eager to talk with the Maoists. All are armed opposition group of different color with military background. So government is much willing to open up a dialogue, as UK open up dialogue with the Ireland and solve the issue, as Philippines is open up the dialogue with the Maoists. So India government should sincerely
But they kill us and we talk to them. What sort of an argument are you drawing? General Bakshi is suggesting that we continue to talk to them regardless of how many of our soldiers get murdered. General GD Bakshi, please.
What the learned professor is saying is weak surrender to every terrorist who slaughters our soldiers, who beheads them, who sort of puts bombs in their bellies, cuts open their stomachs and puts bombs. These are horrible things to do. And India all this, talk about that.
India state is
please learn to listen.
India,
I mean, there is no dialogue, Professor Bhadro. I mean, you are equally trying to be a dictatorial.
Who is going to be accountable for that?
Excuse me.
Who is going to be accountable for that? Indian state has been killing people after people.
And
years. Who is accountable for that?
Somebody please control this gentleman. Look, I'd like to tell you
who is accountable for the sick people who are killed
please let me finish.
Now what does this have to do with 84? Professor Bhadro, please don't diffuse the argument. Why don't you stick to the facts? What does this have to do with 1984? We've discussed 1985 adequately. We're happy to discuss it again on a separate day. Don't confuse the argument.
That Muslim community was killed. This is not a terrorist act. Who are held responsible for that? Who are bringing to vote
I would like
in
to
1984 after
Rahul, I would like to state this gentleman should not be allowed to rant like this. Absolutely. I am trying to tell you that all this talk that the Maoists are nationalist is absolute nonsense. They are getting arms from the ISI. They are getting arms from the Chinese who are supplying it via Kachin rebels to the People's Liberation Army in Manipur. They have been getting AK-56s, AK-47. They have been getting military-grade explosives. Do you call such people nationalists? And we are supposed to talk to them because they are slaughtering our soldiers in the most abominable, inhuman fashion ever. And you are stating that the government must still talk to them because you do not seem to realize that the UN, the Security Council Resolution 1043 clearly states that no cause in the world can justify the use of such terror tactics, such slaughtering of innocent human beings who are just doing their job.
But they did not
Are you supposed to
does not divert any government to
dialogue, torturers, murderers?
This resolution does not divert any government for opening up a dialogue.
Even if they had done it in a war, why
you
should
are
we
emphasizing only
counter-insurgency,
insurgency, militant? You have only military solution. But you are saying that
Professor Bhadro, I will tell you what the problem with the argument tonight is. You are saying we should talk to the terrorists. Professor Bhadro, you must be prepared to listen. Professor Bhadro, will you hear me please? You are saying we should talk to the terrorists. The fact is, if they were to give up their guns, if they were to say we give up our guns, we are prepared to come to the negotiating table, that is still a reasonable argument. But when they are killing our soldiers, what then can possibly justify you even demanding that the Indian state talk to these butchers, talk to these terrorists, talk to these murderers? Why should we? We mustn't.
I am not justifying what I am saying. Loss of life must be stopped. No army men, no other Indian citizen should be killed in the conflict. So if you want to bring peace, open up a dialogue. Find out.
So if you want peace, let the Naxals give up their guns. Let them come to the negotiating table. Why should we talk to people with guns?
Another attack and that will continue. That will continue.
Why should the Indian state talk to terrorists with guns?
How? Only dialogue. Only dialogue. I am saying nothing more.
In front of every
What I am
criminal.
saying, dialogue is the only solution.
No, so why don't we have a dialogue with Hafiz Saeed? Why don't we have a dialogue with Sayyid Salahuddin?
With people who behave like this, can you hold a reasonable dialogue? What is the chance of holding reasonable dialogue with psychotic murderers who put bombs, open up the bellies of dead soldiers and put bombs so that those who are trying to take them to the hospital will also be killed? There is no ambassador plenipotentiary. The Maoists are not a state. Just because they are getting aid from China and Pakistan, you may call them a state. We will not. They are terrorists and they are behaving in a criminal manner. It needs to be curbed.
Into our discussion, please. It is not an international
Because the other countries, my dear sir, are giving them AK-47, giving them military-grade explosives to fight and destroy our industrial infrastructure.
If we have dialogue with the internal leaders, we can frustrate. We can frustrate international conspiracy if we open up dialogue with our internal leaders.
No, I'm sorry.
We
This
would
business
like
of
to
dialogue
hold
with terrorists makes no sense, Professor Dantewada. I want to bring Jugal Purohit in. Jugal, what is the current status of the probe in this attack? Because 76 soldiers were killed. What irks me is the fact that most of them who were responsible for perpetrating this attack are actually getting away. The Indian state is not being able to punish them.
There's no doubt, Rahul. In fact, on the 7th of January, the court in Dantewada, the trial court, actually acquitted all those people who were nabbed after painstaking efforts by the police because there was no evidence against them. And now the CRPF is trying to appeal in a higher court.
No, but now we put out evidence against them. Now you've got pictures. Just take those pictures full screen, please. Because if you look at these pictures very, very carefully, you can see faces, you can see weapons, you can see their training meetings taking place. So you know who these people are. So if the cops actually investigate the tape that Headlines Today is putting out this evening, they now have clinching evidence of the Maoist terrorists who are responsible for this attack, Jugal.
There's no doubt. In fact, Rahul, there are efforts which are being made by the Home Ministry, by the CRPF to actually try and kickstart the entire probe. But one doesn't really know where this is going to head because till now there's been no concrete step even of an appeal after the trial court actually acquitted them. And Rahul, there are 2 points I would like to make. The first is that despite the comparisons with Jammu and Kashmir and Northeast, we've never had a scenario where 82 well-armed, well-trained Jawans are massacred after a 4-5 hour-long firefight. And this is an army which is killing these people despite 10,000 rounds being fired. So these are obviously not, they may have initially been some people affected and socio-economic problems, but now they are a well-trained, well-determined army. We need to actually take into account that
situation. We need to deal with them in the manner in which you deal with an army, General Bakshi, and there must be no ambiguity in public discourse about how you deal with these butchers.
Exactly. You see, please understand that there are about 10 to 15,000 armed Maoist cadres. They have formed, fighting people, guerrilla liberation army, platoons and companies, and they are onto the stage of forming battalions. They are armed with AK series of rifles, with light machine guns, with rocket launchers. This is a full-fledged army. For God's sake, don't call them, General Robin Hoods with bows and arrows. I mean, that is very far from the romantic picture which Arundhati Roy et al. Are trying to create of these Gandhians with guns. And this is what they do. Look at the atrocious degree of this kind of demented slaughter, the psychotic actions that they have been doing. Can you talk to such a group? Can you reasonably hold a dialogue with such a murderous group of people? You see, who will slit the bodies of dead soldiers and place IEDs and bombs inside them and stitch them back? So that people who are taking them to the hospitals can get killed?
You can. Nepal has shown Nepal has shown, Philippines is showing, Ireland has shown.
So,
There are instances.
if you justify
More
such action,
more
I think firstly
terrorists
you
than
need to see a
Maoists. More
psychiatrist.
terrorists than Maoists.
If you
came to the
justify
table
such
and had a
action,
dialogue.
I think you need to visit
More
a
terrorists.
psychiatrist.
No, I'm sorry.
You cannot
If you justify
deny history.
such,
As a
You
nation,
cannot
we
deny
can't
history.
continue to look at
There are
Maoists with
instances.
rose-tinted
There are
glasses.
instances.
There's no
Terrorists
romantic notion of
ultimately
them
lay
being
down the
Gandhians
arms.
with guns. They are gundas, they are goons with grenades. And you need to deal with them in the manner in which you deal with a opposition army. There can be no dispute about it. Jugal wants to make a quick final point before we proceed.
Well, Rahul, there's all this talk about, let's sit and talk with the Maoists. I remember after this attack, the then Home Minister, Mr. Chidambaram, actually said that fine, you may not lay down your arms, you may not surrender, abjure violence for 72
They're not
hours.
prepared to do that.
72 hours is what he asked for. Abjuring of violence, not giving up your arms and surrendering. But yet, Kishanji, the then Central Committee member, rejected the offer. So this goes to show the intention.
Absolutely. Professor Badro, this is reflection of the attitude. They're not prepared to give up violence for 72 hours and you want the Indian state to talk to these Maoist terrorists? For 72 hours, they're not prepared to give up their guns. Professor Badro.
Yes, again I am saying, figure does not take us to much extent. Point is there is a conflict, point is they are well armed, point is Indian state is also very powerful. So if you look from the conflict view, if you say that they will be eliminated physically without any dialogue whatsoever, and to prove the Indian authorities' honest, then you are leading more violence, more loss of life on the both sides. But if you want to have a mind to open up a dialogue with them to find out why Maoism came up, why natural resources, control over natural resources.
Yeah, then you must ask
Who will have a
Osama why he
control over
created
people?
the Al-Qaeda. You must ask Mullah Omar why he created the Taliban. I'm sorry, terrorists need to be brought down. There can be no romanticism about this at all. I need to end this broadcast over here. Professor General Bakshi, very quick final points, please. General Bakshi, very quick final points. We got guests waiting for our next story.
Have a very clear view. For God's sake, I've been asked to kindly give
General
my view.
Bakshi, please go ahead, conclude your argument.
All right, I would like to say that these people,
you may say
for God's sake, can you please let me finish?
They're wrongly directed, but they're our people. They're our people. You have no right to kill
All
our
right,
people.
they are our people. If they are our people, let me answer that. If they are our people, why are they getting into touch with the Chinese intelligence, with Pakistan's ISI? Why did some of their top leaders go to Dubai last year
That's
to
your
meet the
allegation.
ISI people
Go and prove in
and
the
get
court. Go and prove
weapons
in the
and
court. Go and prove
military
in the
explosives? And
Go
why
all
have
bullshit we
they
have been listening to.
opened up
All
a
bullshit we
strategic?
have been listening
Can I
to.
please finish my point?
Let us
That-
agree on one point.
Why have
Let us agree on one point.
Why have
heavily
they
armed.
gone
Maoists are
and
heavily
made
trained.
alliances with
Yeah.
Kashmiri
That's
terrorists?
Okay.
accepted fact.
With the
You know,
northeastern
I'm
you
sorry,
are-
we can't get confused over here. The tribals are our people. Their safety, their security, their growth, their prosperity is the responsibility of the Indian state. The top Maoist commanders are terrorists. They need to be dealt with in the manner in which countries deal with terrorists. They're not Gandhians in the least. Our story tonight proves that beyond doubt. Professor Sujato Bhadro for representing an alternate point of view, and General GD Bakshi for joining us on this broadcast. Thank you very much.